Now we have the power jack set up with the wires coming out of it. We can start adding LEDs to our models. These are just demonstration pieces I made. These could be separate buildings, or they could be floors in one building. If you have a tall building, you might want different LEDs on each floor, or they could be several buildings far apart from each other. What we would do is pre-drill the holes, and then take your LEDs and bring them down through your model, and then we'll have them all meet up underneath in the hidden area that you wouldn't see. Okay, now I've brought my LEDs through my model. I'm going to have to connect these wires on the back side. What we can do use a pair of pliers to stabilize the LED, and then bend the LED so it goes flat along the material that makes the back side or the base of our model. Now I'm going to use some tape to hold the LED in place. I like Gorilla Tape. It's a little bit stronger than duct tape. It's similar to duct tape, but it's a bit stronger. You'll see it at most of the big box stores like Home Depot or Lowe's. Now you can see we have the LEDs firmly in place. What I'm going to do is gather up my red wires and my black wires. Give them a twist. Now I'm going to use some hookup wire. We sell hookup wire similar to the wire used on our LEDs. I'm going to take a piece of red and black, long enough so that I can bring this eventually to the power supply. Now I'm going to cut the wire. There's a few ways to strip this. If you can find a wire stripper fine enough, you can use a wire stripper. You could also use a knife and cut the jacket, but what I found is the easiest is just use your soldering iron and pull the jacket off. Now what I'm going to do here is a one-to-many connection. I'm going to connect one piece of hookup wire to all of my red wires. So now I have one piece of red wire going to the next section of my project, and one piece of black wire. Go ahead and twist firmly on these. And then if you have a soldering iron and you're comfortable using solder, it's a good idea to just add a little bit of solder there. Now I don't want these connections to touch each other because they could potentially short. So what I'm going to do is add a piece of shrink tube onto each one. Shrink tube is nice because you can heat it and it'll shrink. But if you don't have shrink tube, you can just use some of that same tape we used right here. Okay, now before I shrink this connection, I want to go ahead and test it and make sure that I've got a solid connection here. If I need to, I can just take this and twist it some more, maybe add some more solder. So I'm going to strip the wires. And then just give it a quick test with any 9-volt battery. When you look at a 9-volt battery, you'll see there's a small side and a large side. The small side goes to the red wire and the large side goes to the black wire. Now when I turn this over, I should see all my lights lighting, and I do. So we're in business. Now I'm going to go to the next phase of my project. Again, for this I happen to have my larger 3mm LEDs. I'm going to do the same operation. Okay, and again, we're going to connect this to our battery. The battery is just here as a quick test. Make sure all our lights light. If one light didn't light, we would just go back and retwist our wires. Okay, I went ahead and connected my next set of LEDs in the same way. I gathered all the reds together to a red piece of hookup wire. I gathered all the blacks together to a black piece of hookup wire. Once again, I'm going to test, and I should see all of my lights light, which I do. Again, if one light wasn't lit, all I would need to do is pull the shrink tube back off and go ahead and check that connection and see if there's a loose wire. Now I have them all sorted out, I can actually go ahead and use a lighter or a match and heat up my shrink tube. Or if I've used just masking tape or Scotch tape, I can replace it with heavier duty tape like duct tape or Gorilla Tape. Okay, now I have my various parts of my project. This might be the furthest away, this might be closer in, and this might be the closest to my power supply. But what I'm going to do is the same thing I've been doing all along. I'm going to gather up my red and my black leads from my hookup wire and bring these down. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my blacks together and my reds together. Twist very firmly. And bring this to my power jack. This is on the base. This is inside the model. I would have brought this inside my model to do this final connection. We'll first add a piece of shrink tube, make the final connection, put the shrink tube over it. Again, add a piece of shrink tube and if you recall, this time we're wiring it to the switch so that we can turn this project on and off. Okay, so there's one thing left to test. We're going to take our power supply, we'll go ahead and plug it in. Now when I bring my supply over to here, I should see all my lights light.